The Senate will come to order. The senators will please take their seats. Those not entitled to the privilege of the floor will please now retire to the gallery. The senators and all in attendance will stand and be led in prayer by the Reverend Richard K. Early, Grace Mennonite Fellowship, Rockingham, Virginia.
Almighty God, our Father, the source of all wisdom, power, and love, we are gathered in your presence this afternoon to seek your discernment and your direction for the business of this day, which at times, for many of us, seems daunting. God, I ask that you guide these senators of our great state of Virginia for the task before them, that their hard work and dedication will be far more reaching and helpful to those they represent than to their own personal gain or wants. Father, today enable them to accomplish two essential goals. First, to have vision that seeks clarity and conviction for those items of the agenda that matter most to the constituents they represent. Move them beyond what is trivial and self-serving to those things that burn in their hearts, particularly of those they represent as well. And secondly, God, draw them together in unity. Where there are walls of division of thought, personality, or party, tear them down. Join them together as one body of servants, firmly committed to the present and the future of our Commonwealth this year. So we ask this day for you to be thou our vision, to be our best thought, and your presence be our light now and forever. This is our prayer. We trust it is your desire for us. Amen.
Amen. Clerk will call the roll. All those present will please vote aye. The clerk will close the roll.
You have a quorum, Mr. President. Senate Journal from Monday, January 22nd, 2018.
Thank the clerk. The senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson, moves that the reading of the journal be waived. All in favor of the reading of the journal will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 32, noes 5, Rule 36-1.
Ayes 32, noes 5, Rule 36-1. The reading of the journal is waived. Clerk will report any communication from the House of Delegates. Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I respectfully move we waive the reading of any communications from the House of Delegates.
The question is, shall the reading of the communication be waived? All in favor of the reading of the communication from the House of Delegates will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 37, noes 2.
Ayes 37, noes 2. The reading of the communication from the House of Delegates is waived. The clerk will report any communication from the governor.
I do not have any, sir.
Now it's come the time for us to welcome visitors here to the gallery and also to take up any matters for the morning hour. First, to call on the junior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator D. Steph.
Mr. President, I rise for two purposes.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, I rise first for the purpose of an introduction. Today in the gallery, visiting us, we have folks supporting change to step therapy. These advocates are representing my district who have traveled here today to speak with senators about these measures that can have devastating impacts on people with chronic conditions. Imagine having a doctor who has never seen you decide what prescription you get put on. Well, that's what step therapy is about. Please welcome to the gallery our step therapy reform advocates. And Donna Ginn is their leader.
We please have the members of the Step Therapy Reform Coalition rise in the gallery if you're able. Thank you all so much for being here today. We're very proud to have you here, and thank you to Senator DeSteph for his kind words about the work that you do. We hope that you enjoy your time here at the Senate and at the Capitol. And I would ask everyone here to join me in offering the warm welcome of the Senate to the members of the Step Therapy Reform Coalition. Junior Senator from Virginia Beach.
And Mr. Chairman, secondly, I rise to request the addition of a bill with unanimous consent. And I would like to explain this.
Senator has the floor.
This bill is a stormwater bill that takes very complicated calculations and formulas out of our code and out of regulations and puts them into guidance. So as we find errors in those, the agency can correct those errors without having to go through the regulatory process or the legislative process. So with that, I'd like to recommend or request adding a bill that I have room for by unanimous consent.
The question is, shall the Senate grant consent to introduce the bill referenced by the junior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator DeSteph? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The consent of the Senate is granted to introduce the bill. Senator from Hampton, Senator Locke.
Mr. President, I rise for an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Joining us in the gallery today is the Commissioner of Revenue for Newport News, Ms. Tiffany Boyle. Please extend to her the warm welcome of the Senate.
I thank the senator. Would Commissioner Boyle please rise in the gallery? Commissioner Boyle, we thank you so much for joining us here today. We had the pleasure of seeing you also yesterday when you heard your fellow commissioners and treasurers from around the Commonwealth of Virginia. We congratulate you on your wonderful election and victory, and appreciate all the great work that you're doing in Newport News. So I would ask everyone here to join me in offering the warm welcome of the Senate to Commissioner Tiffany Boyle. The senator from Alexandria, Senator Eben.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for two introductions.
The senator has the floor.
First, on behalf of Senators Favola, Howell, and myself, I wanted to introduce the Arlington Commissioner of the Revenue, Ingrid Maroy. Commissioner Maroy is accompanied today by Squietta Smith and Susan Anderson. And a word about Ingrid Maroy. She was a pioneer in the establishment of DMV Select, making it easier for taxpayers to get services in one stop. She's also been an advocate for taxpayer fairness, seeing that people pay their fair share without having scofflaws get off with the burden being sent to other taxpayers. And my second introduction is on behalf of Senators Barker, Saslow, and myself. We have Ms. Ronnie Campbell, a member of the Alexandria School Board. Ms. Campbell has focused on special education, closing the minority achievement gap, and also helping the city succeed with particular challenges we're facing with our budget in struggling to fund continuing challenges, including updating systems, equipment, water mains that are broken, and HVAC systems that are due for replacement. So with that, I hope that you extend the welcome of the Senate to both. I probably should have waited.
Okay, I thank the senator. We will do both. First, would love to have Commissioner Roy rise, and also Ms. Smith and Ms. Anderson in your office. Thank you all so much for being with us today. We know about the great work that you do in Arlington and around the Commonwealth of Virginia. Senator Eben pointed out some of the advances that you have helped to put forward, and we're very grateful for your commitment, the commitment of your office. So I would ask everyone here to join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to Commissioner Maroy and those members of her office. I would now ask that Ms. Ronnie Campbell please rise. Ms. Campbell, thank you so much for joining us here from the Alexandria School Board. We thank Senator Eben again for his warm and kind words about you. You do tremendous work in Alexandria, and we're grateful for the impact you've had on our children and on our Commonwealth. So I would ask everyone here to please join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to Ms. Ronnie Campbell. The Senator from Franklin, Senator Stanley.
Good afternoon, Mr. President.
Good afternoon, Senator.
I rise for the purposes of one big, giant introduction.
The Senator has the big, giant floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, in our gallery today, we have some very special people that mean very much to me, and I have the honor of serving them as their senator, and they have traveled a very long way and a very long time to come here today. These are the people of Patrick County, Mr. President, the people that work so hard to make their community so great. And as I look up into the gallery, I see so many friends, but also so many fighters and so many people that are worthy of our admonitions, our adulations, and our respect. Mr. President, up there today we have Debbie Foley with the Economic Development of Patrick County, Bill Clark, who's the Vice Chair of Economic Development. We have Michelle Jenkins with Congressman Morgan Griffith's office, Teresa Cavanis, a property owner of Patrick County. We have one of my very good friends and somebody I admire greatly, Sheriff Dan Smith. We just call him Sheriff Dan. We have Mac Deakins, Town Council of Stewart. Keith Gunter from Rogers Real Estate in Stewart. Harold Edwards from Stewart County. Christine Elgin from Patrick County. Josie Foley from Patrick County. Amy Walker from Patrick County. Tom Inman from Patrick County. Our fire chief of Stewart and town manager Terry Tilley, a fine gentleman. Alston Bryant from the Stewart Fire Department. Mary Scott from Patrick County. Michael Scott, a building contractor we have in Patrick County. Tom Rose, County Administrator of Patrick County. Jerry Hazelwood, also the Deputy Administrator of Patrick County. Steve Allen, the Emergency Coordinator Director of Patrick County. He does such great work for us. Holly Connor, an RN and EMT with Patrick County. Jessica Connor, Patrick County. Catherine Connor of Patrick County, Hillary Holt of Patrick County, and my friend, even though we may not see eye to eye on certain political issues, but a friend indeed who has been always kind and gracious to me, our school superintendent, Dr. Bill Schroof. Ladies and gentlemen, I send to you, and my wish is that you would extend to them the warm welcome of the Senate to some of the finest people that live here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the Senator. Would our guests from Patrick County please rise in the gallery if you're able? Thank you all so much for being here with us today in the Senate. We are grateful that you made the trip. Patrick County obviously is a beautiful part of the Commonwealth of Virginia and represented here by some of the top leaders, both in civic life and in government and the private sector. And we're grateful that you came today. We thank Senator Stanley for his kind and generous words about each one of you. And I would ask everyone please to join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to our wonderful guest here from Patrick County. Senator from Western Fairfax, Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for the purpose of an introduction.
The Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today we've got some of my heroes here in the Senate gallery visiting with us. They're correctional officers from a number of facilities around Virginia. They're here to meet and talk with their legislators concerning safety issues and working conditions in our Commonwealth's correctional centers. Corrections officers here today are from the Deerfield Correctional Center, Greensville Correctional Center, Indian Creek Correctional Center, Lunenburg Correctional Center, the Medical College of Virginia, and Sussex I and Sussex II state prisons. And I ask, Mr. President, that they be given the warm welcome of the Senate.
I thank the Senator. Would the correction officers and staff in the gallery please rise? We thank you all so much for joining us here today, and also thank you for the very important work that you do here in the Commonwealth of Virginia to keep us all safe, to make sure that our system of justice runs smoothly and fairly. And we thank you for the commitment that you've made every single day to that very important work. So I would ask everyone here in the Senate to join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to our correction officers and staff from around the Commonwealth of Virginia. The senator from Williamsburg, Senator Mason.
Mr. President, I rise for the purposes of an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Mr. President, members of the Senate, today we have with us members from the Virginia Interfaith Center for Public Policy. They were formed in 1982 to focus on issues of economic and racial justice, and they have chapters all across the nation and all across the state, and are represented here today with everybody but from Patrick County because they had to stay back home and keep the lights on. But I know many of you had been reached out to by those members in your district. Mr. President, these volunteers focus on heavy lift issues: poverty, predatory lending, health care for all people. And so they work very hard to take care of all and to try to help society and focus on things that are important to everybody. So, Mr. President, I hope that you'd offer our friends from the Virginia Peninsula and beyond, the Virginia Interfaith Center for Public Policy, the warm welcome of the Senate.
I thank the senator from Williamsburg. Would the members of the Interfaith Center for Public Policy in the gallery please rise if you're able? Thank you all so much for being here today. I recognize some familiar faces from your advocacy and the great work that you do here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Thank Senator Mason for the warm thoughts that he extended about that work and how important it is. And I would please ask everyone here to join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to our friends from the Interfaith Center for Public Policy. The senator from King George, Senator Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. President. Rise for an introduction.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, today in the gallery we've got from back in Stafford, Laura Rudy, who's the treasurer, Kathy Cox, who's the chief deputy treasurer, Scott Majowski, who's the tax commissioner, commissioner of revenue, and Isaiah Lee, who is a deputy in that office. They are here visiting today and advocating. They do great work back in Stafford, and they're all friends of mine, and I'm glad to have them up here today, and I would ask that you give them the warm welcome of the Senate.
Thank the senator. Would the members of the Stafford County government in the gallery please rise? You're already on the ball. You're standing up. Thank you all so much for joining us here today, and thank you for the work that you do in Stafford, another really wonderful part of the Commonwealth of Virginia. We know how important the work is that you do in your daily lives, and I got to see some of you yesterday as you were advocating for the resources and to make sure that we were working together in partnership to be efficient and effective as a Commonwealth. So I thank the Treasurer's Office, the Commissioner of the Revenue's Office, and your great leadership. And I would ask everyone to please join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to our friends from Stafford County Government, Commissioner of Revenue's Office, and the Treasurer's Office. Thank you so much. The senator from Grayson, Senator Carrico.
Thank you, Mr. President. Rise for an introduction.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Visiting us in the gallery today is a group with the VADA. In their ultimate wisdom, they elected a president from Wythe County, my district, Mike Huff. Mike has a long history in dealerships. He is the son of a dealer that Bob Huff that opened the group in Wytheville, and Mike's been selling cars probably before he was even able to drive. So he's here with us today, and also the legislative chairman, Rich Galler, who is the owner of Pomoco, I hope I've said that right, auto group. Coming from a town called Freeze, spelled like fries, I always get nervous on those kind of things. But I also joining them is a familiar face of ours, the VADA president, Mr. Don Hall. And I would ask that this body give them a warm welcome to the Senate today and enjoy visiting with them sometime today when they have time. Thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the senator. Would our friends from the Virginia Automobile Dealers Association in the audience please rise if you're able? Thank you all so much for being here today. Thank you for your leadership in the private sector in the Commonwealth of Virginia, in a very important sector. And I want to thank the senator from Grayson for the kind words that he extended about each one of you and the work that you've done for a very long period of time here in Virginia. Please let us know how we can better assist you in that work. And I'd like to ask everyone here to please join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to our friends from the Virginia Automobile Dealers Association. Thank you. Senator from Bath, Senator Deeds.
Mr. President, could the Journal reflect the leave of absence from our desk mate, the senator from Roanoke City?
Without objection, the Journal will so reflect. Senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenshain.
As for an introduction,
the senator has the floor.
Actually, three. Mr. President, I rise to introduce the pastor who joined us today. And I, as a student of history, was very interested to learn that Pastor Richard Early is the first Mennonite pastor to open a session of the Senate of Virginia in prayer. I may be wrong, but that's the information that filtered back to me. And Mr. President, Pastor Early is pastor at Grace Mennonite Fellowship, not just in Rockingham, but in greater Lacey Spring, Virginia, right around the corner from me. We've worshiped with Pastor Early and his congregation, and he does a great job serving the northern part of Rockingham County. And he's joined today in the gallery by an old friend of mine and many of ours, former Delegate Matt Lohr. Matt also, after he left the General Assembly, was appointed Commissioner of the Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, where he served the agriculture community and people across Virginia there for a number of years. And they're also joined, and this is not on the yellow sheet, by my long-suffering legislative aide, Jenny Auger. So, Mr. President, I would ask you to extend the warm welcome of the Senate to Pastor Early and to thank him for delivering our opening prayer this morning, Matt Lohr and Jenny Auger.
Thank the senator. Pastor Early, if you'd please rise, former Delegate Lohr and Jenny Auger. Thank you all so much for joining us here today and visiting here in the gallery. Pastor Early, thank you for that really beautiful prayer to get us started off on the right foot. We're grateful for your leadership in Rockingham. And you shared earlier that you actually lived in Vienna at one point in time. So very happy to hear that as well. Former delegate, thank you for your leadership here in the House of Delegates and at the statewide level here in the Commonwealth. And Jenny, thank you for putting up with Senator Obenshain. We really appreciate it. He really is fantastic, and he speaks very highly of you. So I would ask everyone here to join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to our three distinguished guests. The senator from Henrico, Senator Donovan. Button there? Okay. Do any other senators wish to be recognized for purposes of introduction? Seeing none, the clerk will call the calendar.
Senate calendar for Tuesday, January 23rd, 2018. Uncontested calendar, Senate bills on third reading.
The senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would now move all the Senate bills on the third reading on the uncontested calendar, which would include all Senate bills on pages 1 through 6, including Senate Bill 69 through Senate Bill 775, be placed on their final passage in the block. If any senator desires to remove a bill from the block, please do so after the clerk has read the number of that bill.
I thank the senator. The question is, shall the Senate bills on the uncontested calendar, third reading, pages 1 through 6, Senate Bill 69 through Senate Bill 775, be placed upon their final passage in the block, with the understanding that any senator desiring a bill be removed from the block do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The bills are before us in the block. The clerk will read the number of bills.
Senate Bill 69, Senate Bill 96, Senate Bill 258, Senate Bill 305, Senate Bill 315, Senate Bill 363, Senate Bill 411, Senate Bill 413, Senate Bill 515, Senate Bill 575, Senate Bill 673, Senate Bill 679, Senate Bill 760, Senate Bill 775.
Mr. President.
Senator from Roanoke County, Senator Suderline.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can Senate Bill 69 come out of the block, please?
Without objection, Senate Bill 69 will come out of the block. The question is, shall the bills in the block pass? That is all bills except for Senate Bill 69. All in favor of the passage of the bills will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The bills in the block pass. Returning to Senate Bill 69. Senator from Northern Fairfax, Senator Howe.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the bill pass. And speaking to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
This bill merely removes the sunset clause on the Arlington transient occupancy tax and makes it like every other transient occupancy tax in the Commonwealth. I wanted you to know that this is what they call their utmost priority by the Arlington Chamber of Commerce. And in support of this piece of legislation, they did some analysis. And what they discovered was tourism in Arlington County brings $119 million to the Commonwealth every year. And this 0.25% increase that's involved in this transient occupancy tax leads to $4.5 million for the Commonwealth every year. Thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard? The question is, shall Senate Bill 69 pass? All those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 30, noes 8.
Ayes 30, noes 8. Senate Bill 69 passes.
Regular calendar. Senate bills on third reading. Senate Bill 149, a bill relating to smoking in outdoor amphitheater or concert venue.
Sorry, the senator from Bath, Senator
Mr. President,
Deeds.
could that bill go by for the day, please?
Without objection, Senate Bill 149 will go by for the day.
Senate Bill 331, a bill relating to voter registration, verification of Social Security numbers, provisional registration status.
Senator from Lynchburg, Senator Peake.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I move that the bill pass. And speaking to the bill,
the senator has the floor.
If Mr. President and the body will remember, I spoke to this bill yesterday. I'll give an even shorter version. This requires the registrar to get Social Security numbers, birth dates, and names of people registering to vote. If they match, they are automatically registered to vote. If they do not match, then they are provisionally registered to vote. They are sent a notice that something does not match. They can then clear up any discrepancy. And it also authorizes the registrars to check once a year to make sure that the names, birth dates, and Social Security numbers match. It's a voter integrity bill, and I move that the bill pass. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. Do any senators wish to be heard on this bill? The question is, shall Senate Bill 331 pass? All in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 21, noes 18.
Ayes 21, noes 18. Senate Bill 331 passes.
Senate Bill 521, a bill relating to investigations and reports of registered voters and persons voting at elections.
The senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenshain.
Mr. President, I move the bill pass. And speaking of the bill,
Senator has the floor.
This is a bill I described yesterday, and I assume that no reason to carry this over again today. This bill simply addresses the obligation of registrars across the state to investigate and report. No form required, no particular formality, but there's a problem. We have a number of jurisdictions with more people registered to vote than there are voting age adults. And as I mentioned yesterday, there could be perfectly legitimate explanations for that. And if there are, the registrar ought to report those. If there aren't, we ought to know that as well. So this simply requires the registrar to make that report, a public report, to the Department of Elections, and it would be my hope that the Department of Elections would actually do something with that information, whether it's just disseminate it and make an explanation so that people understand that there's nothing nefarious going on, or that if there is a problem, that they'll clean up the voter rolls and take appropriate steps to make sure that we have free, open, and fair elections in the Commonwealth of Virginia. So with that, Mr. President, I renew my motion that the bill pass.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard on this bill? The question is, shall Senate Bill 521 pass? All those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 22, noes 17.
Ayes 22, noes 17. Senate Bill 521 passes.
Senate Bill 73, a bill relating to overweight permits for hauling Virginia-grown farm produce, ridges, and culverts.
The senior senator from Chesapeake, Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. President, I move that Senate Bill 73 pass, and I'd like to speak to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate. Senate Bill 73 would allow farm vehicles to weigh up to 90,000 pounds. This is already happening for coal trucks, for quarry stone, for gravel, for oil, and other trucks. They already have a 90,000, and lumber, which we did last year. They already have that 90,000 pound limit. This will allow farmers to put more onto their trucks, reduce the number of truckloads that are going out with agricultural products. Mr. President, the bill would not allow any truck to violate a rated bridge that would take less than that amount of weight. So I hope it will be the pleasure of the body to pass the bill.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard on this bill? The question is, shall Senate Bill 73 pass? All those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 35, noes 4.
Ayes 35, noes 4. Senate Bill 73 passes.
Senate Bill 100, a bill relating to new sentencing hearing, abolition of parole.
The junior senator from Richmond City, Senator McClellan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the bill pass, and speaking to the motion.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you. Senate Bill 100 would entitle those defendants who were convicted of nonviolent felonies after parole was abolished, but before the Fishback versus Commonwealth decision would be entitled to a new sentencing proceeding. As you know, in Fishback versus the Commonwealth, the Supreme Court of Virginia held that juries should have been instructed that parole was abolished once parole was abolished. There are about 10 defendants left who are incarcerated who would be entitled to a new proceeding, and I renew my motion that the bill pass.
I thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard on this bill? The question is, shall Senate Bill 100 pass? All those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 20, noes 19.
Ayes 20, noes 19. Senate Bill 100 passes.
Senate Bill 101, a bill relating to family life education, sexually explicit communications, child sex abuse, and non-consensual sexual activity.
The junior senator from Richmond City, Senator McClellan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the bill pass, and speaking to the motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you. Senate Bill 101, in the substitute that we adopted yesterday, would require that any family life education curriculum in high school include information on the consequences of sex without consent, which is a crime, for anyone under 18. It would also include information on the dangers and repercussions of sexting, or posting on social media sexually explicit materials, which is in most cases a crime. And finally, includes information on the prevention, recognition, and awareness of child abduction, child abuse, child sexual exploitation, and child sexual abuse. And I renew my motion that the bill pass.
I thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard on this bill? The question is, shall Senate Bill 101 pass? All those in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 37, noes 2.
Ayes 37, noes 2. Senate Bill 101 passes.
Senate Bill 104.
Mr. President.
The senator from Spotsylvania, Senator Reeves. For what purpose does the senator rise?
Mr. President, having voted on the prevailing side in which we passed Senate Bill 100, I ask that vote be reconsidered.
The question is, shall the vote by which Senate Bill 100 passed be reconsidered? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The motion is agreed to. Junior Senator from Richmond City, Senator McClellan.
Mr. President, I'm being advised to request that the bill go by for the day.
Without objection, Senate Bill 100 will go by for the day.
Senate Bill 104. A bill relating to reckless driving exceeding speed limit.
The senator from Roanoke County, Senator Suderline.
Hi, Mr. President.
Hello.
I move that Senate Bill 104 pass the Senate.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you. Speaking to the bill now. Senate Bill 104 is similar to a proposal that we passed my first 2 years. I hope we pass it my third year, and I hope the House now sees the wisdom of it. When the speed limit was increased to 70 miles on interstates in the Commonwealth during the McDonnell administration, it created a situation on several of our interstates where driving 11 miles over the speed limit is reckless driving. It's a Class 1 misdemeanor. It could be punished up to a year in jail or a $2,500 fine. Now, you're not likely to have that severe punishment for going 11 miles over the speed limit, but a lot of folks feel compelled to hire an attorney because they're concerned about the implications of being labeled a Class 1 misdemeanor criminal on future job applications and clearances for other jobs. So what this bill does is it says it's no longer automatically reckless at 80, it's automatically reckless at 85. So anyone driving 85 miles an hour, 86 miles an hour, it's still reckless driving, but 11 to 14 miles over the speed limit would no longer be considered reckless driving in this situation. And I hope we pass the bill.
Senator from James City County, Senator Norman. I wish to be recognized. Senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenshain.
Mr. President, speaking of the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Mr. President, it pains me to rise to speak in opposition to a bill that is brought by my friend from Roanoke County. But I want to tell you a couple of things about Interstate 81. We've got a huge problem. And I know those of you in Hampton Roads, those of you in Northern Virginia, those of you on the Interstate 95 corridor, you've got different problems with transportation. You've got gridlock, you've got fender benders, you've got delays getting to work and getting home. But on Interstate 81, we've got a problem. We have trucks, about 45 to 48% of the trucks that travel through Virginia are traveling up and down Interstate 81. The traffic on Interstate 81 creates a different kind of problem. When there's a problem on Interstate 81, somebody dies a fiery death. It is a bad, bad crash. And the backups that occur on Interstate 81 are typically 4 hours long when a tractor trailer is involved in those backups. Now, I'll tell you, when we increased the speed limit to 70 miles an hour, I supported it. And I supported it for a couple of reasons. And I got a lot of pushback from people in my district who were concerned about the traffic going up and down Interstate 81. And the reason I supported it was that speed doesn't cause crashes. What causes crashes is disparity in speed. Traffic going fast and other traffic going slow. And keeping that reckless driving at 80 miles an hour and a real penalty for it at 80 miles an hour serves to compress the speed at which people travel on Interstate 81. Now, I'm not here to suggest to you that everybody drives under 80 miles an hour. They don't. But there are a lot of people who don't drive over 80 miles an hour because of the potential that they're going to get tagged with a reckless driving charge. And it does compress the speed at which people drive on Interstate 81. It is not a panacea, but it saves lives. It prevents people from dying on Interstate 81. And we've got to do something in order to make sure that we protect people. Now, before anybody stands up and accuses me of being a self-serving lawyer, I've never defended a reckless driving charge in my life, and nor does anybody in my firm. I really don't care. Sorry to those of you in this chamber who do earn a livelihood from that. But this bill is about saving lives. And quite frankly, it's going to make Interstate 81 a little bit less safe. And I say that with great admiration, respect, and affection to my friend from Roanoke County, but I would urge the members of the body to vote no.
I thank the senator. The senator from Eastern Fairfax, Senator Surville.
Speaking to the bill, Mr. President.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I agree with just about everything the gentleman from, the senator from Rockingham says, except for one thing, which is that I don't believe that the fact that this is reckless driving versus speeding deters anybody from driving 80 versus 85. I do this as part of my law practice. I probably do about maybe 15, 20, 30 reckless driving tickets a year. I make a decent amount of money for it, and I support this bill. This is going to actually cost me money. I think Senator Garrett gave the same speech about 2 years ago. I support this. I support the adultery decriminalization. I support the marijuana decriminalization. All those things are going to cost me money. And I support all of it because I think it's the right thing to do. The people that come to me that are charged with reckless driving often have no clue they can go to jail for driving 81 miles an hour on a road in Virginia. In most other states, this is not the kind of thing you can go to jail for. And if we pass this legislation, you can still get fined up to $250. You still get 6 points on your ticket if you're more than 20 miles an hour over the speed limit. The points stay the same. The only thing this really takes away is the ability of lawyers to make a lot more money, which will save all of our constituents some money. And I think it'll make our system work a lot more efficiently and save taxpayers some dollars. But I don't believe that 84 miles an hour, the threat of incarceration, makes anybody want to do it or not want to do it. And so I think we ought to pass this bill as we have the last two sessions.
I thank the senator. The senator from Grayson, Senator Carrico.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. President, speaking to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Let me give you another perspective of this. Being the patron of the bill that raises the speed limit to 70, there's opportunities for law enforcement that are out there that they may get someone at 81 miles per hour or 82, and there's no indication that anything that they were doing other than 1 mile or 2 miles over the speed limit is reckless. So it gives them the opportunity to be able to charge with speeding. Right now, their hands are tied. They can only charge with reckless when they're over that unless they can articulate them slowing down to a speed that is speeding at the time that they came through the radar. So I think what you're doing is giving discretion to law enforcement to determine what is reckless and what is not by allowing this threshold to be raised, and I hope we support the bill.
Thank the senator. The senior senator from Loudoun, Senator Black.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to speak in favor of the bill.
Senator has the floor.
It has been some years since the Washington Post had a couple of reporters driving down the highway, perhaps coming here to the session, I'm not sure, but they managed to hit 81 miles an hour. And there was an editorial in the Post talking about this problem. It's the first time that I had ever heard of it, and I introduced, I believe, the first one of these bills. We've been doing it now for some years, and nothing has really changed. It is fundamentally unfair to say that you can be going 11 miles over and you get reckless. So I think we've been looking at this year after year, and I think it's time that we went ahead and passed the bill and got this straightened out. Thank you.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to? Senator from Roanoke County, Senator Suderline.
If there are no other senators that wish to speak.
Do any other senators wish to be heard on this bill?
All right, I'll
Senator
close.
from Roanoke County has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a fun day for me on the floor of the Senate. I told folks that the first day I really felt like a Republican member of the Senate was when the senior senator from Fairfax and the former senator from Henrico came after me on a bill. And I said, well, I'm a real Republican member of the state Senate. Did not know how long it would take till my friend from Rockingham would speak against one of my bills. But I would urge the body to listen to the senator from Eastern Fairfax and talking about what this looks like in the courtroom. Also, the senator from Grayson, what this looks like for the policemen working our highways and the authority that's taken away from them. And thus they have to give the ticket, and the person then has to go to the courtroom, like Senator Serval said, and hire that expensive attorney, which can be very expensive, as you know, Mr. President. So I urge you all to pass the bill. Also, I would point out that, as the senator from Grayson said, when it's just 9 miles over, it's just the speeding limit. But once we go 11 over, we've escalated all the way to it's now a jailable offense. And that's why it's so problematic. And I hope the Senate will see the wisdom in passing it again.
I thank the senator. The question is, shall Senate Bill 104 pass? All those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 23, no 16.
Ayes 23, no 16. Senate Bill 104 passes.
Senate Bill 372, a bill relating to carrying dangerous weapon to place of religious worship.
The senator from Russell, Senator Chafin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the bill pass. And speaking to the bill,
Senator has the floor.
This is a repeal bill, and what this bill seeks to repeal is an archaic law that is still on the books of the Commonwealth that prohibits a private property owner from controlling the policies of their property. That it's one of the only laws that we have like that on the books here in the Commonwealth. And what this bill came to me as a result of conversations with faith leaders and members of the law enforcement community. Yes, you heard that right. Faith leaders and members of the law enforcement community on the same page about this very issue. So we all heard, of course, about the horrendous cold-blooded murders that occurred in Sutherland Springs, Texas, just a few months or weeks ago. And 26 people were gunned down in the sanctuary of their church. In the sanctuary of their church. So Virginia has this law, as I say, this archaic law that says you're not supposed to have firearm in the church. Even if the faith leaders of the church, even if the people that own the church, even if the people that control the church want to have some members of their church provide protection in that church for their members, in the sanctuary of that church. Now, I've got to tell you, in the communities that I represent, there are a whole lot of First Baptist churches. Every little community's got one. Every city's got one. Every little town's got one. Some of them have more than one. And I'll bet you, Mr. President, that your communities have them too. First Baptist churches. So, this law is so easy to understand. We all go places and we see on the door from time to time, we see a sign there that says, firearms prohibited. Well, you know what? It's the owner of that premises to make that decision. They get to make that call, all right? Whether they want guns in their premises or whether they don't want guns in their premises. And all these faith leaders and law enforcement members want is the same privilege, the same right to be able to, if they don't want guns in their church, they can post their church. And they can say, we don't want firearms in this church, okay? But if they want to have some security in their church, some people in their church who have perhaps a concealed weapon permit, perhaps who have a background in law enforcement, perhaps who have training, who can protect the members of that congregation, their flock, they can do that. They can do that if that congregation comes to that decision. They can do what is good for that church. So it's only fair that churches be able, just like you and me, I get to decide whether people bring guns in my house, on my property. I get to decide those policies. It's a private property right issue. That's what this bill is all about. It's all about property rights. So if you believe in property rights, you're going to believe that churches ought to be able to make the decision, just like you, just like me, just like Mr. President, to decide whether or not you want firearms coming on your property or not. So I hope it would be the pleasure of the Senate to pass this bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the Senator. Senator from Prince William, Senator McPike.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to speak against the measure.
The Senator has the floor.
You know, the bill is pretty simple. I had an alternate bill in committee, which is to strike the good and sufficient reason and actually provide the language to strengthen the choice between our clergy, our congregations, and the religious leaders I trust to make a decision. It's pretty simple. There's a very simple solution to this without deleting the entire code section. And those who are voting for this measure are voting for guns over God. And it's ridiculous. The code sections, we have provisions we can help protect. Churches in my community are very concerned about security measures. And they have a right to have the presumption, in fact, that the law is on their side. And I know my friend the senator from Russell and I have chatted about that. We have the same interest, but I think it's going the wrong way. And so I'd respectfully ask that the body defeat the measure.
Thank the Senator. The Senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
Gentleman yield for a question.
Gentleman yield.
I'll yield, Mr. President.
Thank you. Senator has the floor.
I'd ask the gentleman, don't persons with a concealed carry permit already have the right to transport into the sanctuary under current law?
Mr. President, I would tell the gentleman from Fairfax City that is not clear under the current law, that it's up to the interpretation of members of law enforcement and up to the interpretation of the judiciary system.
Further question, Mr. President.
Senator has the floor.
Well, I direct the gentleman's attention to an Attorney General's opinion that was issued in 2011, which says that carrying a weapon for personal protection constitutes good and sufficient reason under 18.2-283 into a place of worship while a meeting for religious purposes is being held, but the place of worship can restrict or ban firearms from their premises. In other words, under this AG's opinion, a concealed carry permit would be good and sufficient reason under the statute currently. Is that not the case?
Mr. President, I would tell the gentleman from Fairfax City that attorney generals come and they go. And often they change their minds about the subject matter upon which they consider. And I would say that attorney general opinions are nothing more than guidance to the courts when it comes to litigation between parties.
Senator from Fairfax City.
I'll just speak briefly to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I'm not going to change anybody's mind. I will say this. I have represented churches. I have been a member of churches that have been involved in litigation, trying to decide whether you pass a collection plate from the left side to the right side is oftentimes an issue of controversy, whether or not you would ban firearms. If you basically delete this subsection, you're going to open up this to become an issue in every single church in this Commonwealth. Let me tell you something. I've been a member of a church for 49 years. We got plenty of issues already, okay? So this is probably one we don't need to debate. So I think this law is actually pretty good right now. I will not yield. I think the law is pretty good right now. I might not have agreed with the AG's opinion, but there is an AG opinion on it for all the reasons that the gentleman mentioned, and I would simply leave it at that. Thank you.
Senator from Grayson, Senator Carrico.
Speaking to the bill, Mr. President.
Senator has the floor.
Gentleman from Fairfax read the Attorney General's opinion, and if he would stress the fact that the opinion says that it's for your safety, so you're going to have to articulate that you're either afraid that someone's going to be at that church that is a threat to you if you have a custody case or whatever, if you were charged for having the concealed weapon in that church that they didn't want you on. So I think there is a distinction between that Attorney General's case and what the gentleman from Russell County is trying to do. You have to articulate the safety of it.
Thank the Senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard on this bill? Senator from Russell, Senator Chafin.
Thank you, Mr. President. If I can just close.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you. You know, as I listen to everybody's comment, the word that comes to my mind is, or the thought that comes to my mind is that it's just for us to, any of us to sit here and think that when a gunman comes to you, that a law is going to somehow protect you is sheer lunacy. Okay? Sheer lunacy. And we can all think that way if we sleep better, but it certainly won't protect us. So what this bill is all about is it's about empowering people without the permission of the Attorney General, without the permission of the legislature, without the permission of a judge, without the permission of anybody, to simply make the decision about their own property rights and about their own safety and about their own future. It's about planning for your own future and making good, sound decisions that might get you through the day.
For what purpose does the senior senator from Fairfax rise?
Wondering if Senator Chafin would yield for a question.
Will the senator yield for a question?
I'll yield.
Senator has the floor.
Just as a point of curiosity or information, the Texas law, at least somebody told me, didn't have a prohibition about guns going in religious places. Is that correct? Do you know if that's right?
I would, Mr. President, I would tell the senator from Fairfax, I am not sure if that is right or not.
The only thing I would say, Mr. President, would be if they did have it, it certainly didn't do those people any good, did it? That's all.
Thank you, Senator.
Mr. President, I would simply say that those individuals, whether or not those individuals were armed or not armed, apparently there was not a security detail in that church. Apparently there was no one in that church that was prepared for what walked into their sanctuary that day, because there was absolutely no, there's no evidence that anything occurred by way of a defensive nature.
Would the gentleman yield for a question?
Yes, I'll yield.
Mr. President.
Sorry, Senator from Grayson, Senator Carrico.
Gentleman yield for a question.
Gentleman yield for a question.
I'll yield, Mr. President.
Senator has the floor.
The situation described to you by the gentleman from Fairfax, would you not agree that the gentleman who was outside the church, because he was able to, and he was an NRA licensed carrier, was able to stop the threat from it spreading from that church to another?
Mr. President, it's my understanding that a citizen who was prepared, interceded, in this matter who gave chase to this suspect, and the suspect was later found in a wrecked car, shot to death. Okay, and I believe with all my heart that prevented this individual from perhaps going down the road to the next First Baptist Church.
Thank the senator. What purpose does the senior senator from Chesapeake rise?
Speak to the bill, Mr. President.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. The senior senator from Fairfax brought up an issue about the church in Texas, but I would tell the gentleman that having lived in Texas at a time when a gunman walked into a restaurant in Waco, Texas, that's a wrong thing to do in Waco, Texas. Because somebody turned over the tables and blew them away because they were carrying legally. All this bill does is allow people to carry legally if the pastor or the board of deacons or the governing body of the church doesn't want to have firearms in their church, they can so deem. But yes, there have been a lot of instances where people who are carrying weapons have saved a whole lot of lives. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard on this bill? The question is, shall Senate Bill 372 pass? All those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 21, noes 18.
Ayes 21, noes 18. Senate Bill 372 passes.
Senate Bill 410, a bill relating to steady burning blue or red lights on law enforcement vehicles.
The senator from Hanover, Senator McDougal.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that Senate Bill 14 pass. And speaking to the bill.
Senate Bill 410.
Yes, Mr. President.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, this is not nearly as complicated as some of the other measures that will come before this body. This simply permits law enforcement, whether it be a sheriff or police or chief of police, to equip vehicles in their jurisdiction with lights that burn steady. Mr. President, there are a number of things you might have heard if you were in the committee process or might hear on the floor today, but this is permissive. It is not mandatory. Mr. President, as law enforcement is dealing with many challenges today, giving them more tools in their toolbox is traditionally a good idea. This is one that increases the visibility of law enforcement in certain high crime areas or certain areas where there are large groups that are assembling, or even in times when we are having holidays and there's high traffic areas. It's another tool. Mr. President, law enforcement has come under assault in a number of areas across our Commonwealth and across the country. But as they do that, it is very clear that when they are present in an area, when the community knows that they are present and available, it has the effect of deterring crime. This will allow law enforcement in each jurisdiction, sheriff or police chief, to make that determination for themselves. And with that, Mr. President, I renew my motion that Senate Bill 410 pass.
Thank the senator. The senator from Grayson, Senator Carrico.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I'll try not to say much anymore after this, but
what purpose does the senator rise?
Rise to speak to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
While I understand the gentleman from Henrico is trying to Hanover is trying to address a officer request to be able to authorize the use of a steady blue light on the back of their vehicles. I think that we've got to consider some things. Number one, the confusion to the general public. The general public understands when they see a blue light that it's a signal for them to pull over, that there's something going on, that they know that there's an emergency at hand. And what has been explained in this situation, I think there's a city north of us that has started this practice, and some people in Virginia have tried to bring that practice into Virginia, but I feel like that the confusion to the general public will be one thing. But my main concern is officer safety. As we have seen across the country over the last year, is officers have been ambushed and killed. And I feel like bringing a steady blue light just gives those that are being ambushed the opportunity to be a target. If you just saw recently the case, and I can't remember the state right now, where the gentleman killed the two officers, and him laughing in court saying if he could have found more, he would have killed more. With a steady blue light, he could have found them. I just don't think that it's a officer safety thing. And the one main thing is we have promoted for the last 10 years a move-over law. Most 50 states have a move-over law. And one of the reasons that we have promoted a move-over law, when you see a blue light, to move over as far to the right as you can, is for the safety of that officer, that officer doesn't get hit. Well, now the general public is going to see a blue light that's steady burning all the time and not know whether they're supposed to move over because it's just an officer wanting to run a steady blue light or if it's actually an emergency situation. So we're going to water down that ability for people to understand that they need to move over to the right to give that officer the room to do his job. And I just think this practice is one of those practices that I would hope, if passed, that most police chiefs and sheriffs don't go down the road of putting into place, because I really feel like it's going to be an officer safety issue in the future. So I hope that you'll join me in voting for my friend from Hanover's against the bill.
Thank the senator. The senior senator from Chesapeake, Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just speaking briefly to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
It's important for everyone to understand, when we heard this in transportation, it's not just blue lights on the back of a police vehicle. It's a steady burning blue light on the front of the vehicle as well as the back. So it's not just a matter of not knowing whether to move over if a police officer is stationary, but it's also a blue light that you're going to see in your rearview mirror. And when the senator from Grayson brought up the point about making targets of our police officers, that's my real concern. Now, this is going to be up to the local law enforcement official leadership, whether they want to do this or not. I hope that they will err on the side of caution, because I really think this bill, especially with the light burning on the front of the vehicle, is a target just waiting to happen. Thank you.
Thank the senator. Senator from Western Fairfax, Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Mr. President. Speaking to the measure.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've had the opportunity over the past 5-6 years to get around the country doing youth violence work and coordinating with police departments and trying to pull communities together to improve safety. And this is a practice that has been advanced in a number of communities in big city areas. Chief Philip Ramsey of the Washington, D.C. Police Department, I think, brought it from Philadelphia or took it to Philadelphia. After a while, this becomes evidence-based. It works. Where policing is changing in this country. It's no longer about sneaking around trying to catch people. That's part of it, and that's important. But the part is to reassure the community that you're there, that you care, that if you're needed, you're easy to spot. It brings great assurance to the community. I've heard reports that people see this on a Halloween night. They appreciate it. They like the presence of their police. And it may seem contraindicated, may seem counterintuitive, but there's a lot of things in life that seem that way, but they work. And I'd urge you to support the bill.
Thank the senator. The senator from Alexandria, Senator Eben.
Thank you, Mr. President. Speaking for the bill.
The senator has the floor.
I think that there's a few points. I spoke with my sheriff at length about this. And first, I just wanted to talk briefly about the senator from Grayson and the senator from Chesapeake's point about officers becoming targets. Sadly, some officers are targeted because there's prominent signage on the law enforcement vehicle. Others are in undercover vehicles without signage. But there's no studies or evidence that an attack on an officer was the result of lights being on. Police officers are killed mostly by felons trying to avoid capture, domestic situations, and planned ambushes, rather than ambushes that a criminal just happens to see the opportunity. In terms of confusing drivers, Washington, D.C. has been doing this for years, as Philadelphia has, Prince George's County in Maryland, and I understand Richmond and Alexandria had experimented with this as well periodically. Now, this past Halloween, in fact, Alexandria had 4 sheriff cruisers patrolling neighborhoods with steady burn lights on, and the visibility was well received and appreciated by the community. The sheriff received compliments. We have in the National Capital Region constant threats and awareness about terrorism. And at Simpson Field in Alexandria, my district, I wonder what the result would have been if outside that field there had been steady burning lights of a police vehicle when the shooter came in and attacked members of Congress. Having a visible presence, as the senator from Western Fairfax says, is essential to thwarting attacks. And companies often hire off-duty police and deputies to patrol their property or stay on their property at high-risk 24-hour retail locations at risk for robbery. They want the officers, they've asked the officers to ride around with flashing emergency lights on, and they want high visibility. We don't want, or this bill doesn't ask for any flashing emergency lights. It asks for a lower profile presence, but a presence nonetheless. And a dim, steady burn will reduce any confusion with flashing lights, but allow for the visibility desired by the property owners. And finally, state law already mandates that an emergency vehicle must have the siren on when responding to an emergency in conjunction with the lights. These vehicles would not have a siren. Local police and other law enforcement are asking for an option, not to make it required. There's no requirement for state police or others to do this if they'd rather not. So with that, I ask that we support the bill.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Petersburg, Senator Dance.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of this bill.
The senator has the floor.
Mr. President, last session, I presented a similar bill on behalf of the city of Richmond at the request of the police chief, who came in passionately. He was new, and I was new at representing them, and maybe we didn't do the best job, but I am very pleased that the senator from Hanover is presenting this bill, and I truly hope it's an enabling. It doesn't say you have to, but it allows those localities that feel that this will help them and they have their evidence base to prove it, will allow them an opportunity to use this to save lives. Thank you.
Thank the senator. Senator from Hanover, Senator McDougal.
Thank you, Mr. President. If no additional senator wishes to speak.
Do any other senators wish to be heard on this bill? Senator McDougal has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, just a couple things in closing. One, this is discretionary, so law enforcement officers have the option to do it. It's not mandatory. And in not being mandatory, they don't have to do it all the time. But as the senator from Alexandria indicated, there are certain times where it's good to have presence. Mr. President, I would tell the members of the body, as many of us drive down the interstates, and certainly that's much of my district, you have to pass through interstate, you see law enforcement that has marked vehicles and unmarked vehicles. We don't prescribe that the state police can only be on the interstates, the Commonwealth of Virginia, in a marked vehicle. And as you drive down the interstate, traditionally, when you see a marked state police trooper on the side of the road, traffic slows down, doesn't accelerate. But if you see unmarked vehicles that you might come across, it doesn't slow down. Mr. President, I also would tell the members of the body that if you see law enforcement that's near a business, the likelihood that somebody's going to rob that business or commit a larceny in that business with law enforcement there is greatly reduced. Having a law enforcement presence, then being open and obvious for the public to see, can be a deterrent. That's why we have these options. And Mr. President, as the members would read the bills, I would draw their attention to the fact that these lights would be of a type approved by the superintendent of state police. So in looking at this, if front and back burning lights are not a good idea, I would assume the superintendent would not approve that type of light. This gives another tool in the toolbox, certainly one that we found our state police thinks effective because they have so many marked vehicles on the interstates of the Commonwealth to deter bad driving or driving too fast. But, Mr. President, I would renew my motion that the bill pass.
I thank the senator. The question is, shall Senate Bill 410 pass? All those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 31, noes 8.
Ayes 31, noes 8. Senate Bill 410 passes.
Senate Bill 586, a bill relating to exhaust system and good working order excluded vehicles.
The junior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator DeSteff.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate Bill 586 pass. Speaking to that.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, this is a pretty easy bill, and I promise there won't be 50 speakers on this. However, it's pretty simple. It basically says that an antique motor vehicle, previously if it was manufactured before 1950, it did not have to comply with the standard factory equipment. It's very difficult to get standard factory equipment on antique cars. So what we've done is just gone to the codified definition of an antique motor vehicle, which is 25 years. So if you have or collect antique cars, you know that trying to get parts for something 25 years old or older is very difficult. So with this, it very easily and simply says that any antique motor vehicle does not have to comply with the standard factory equipment. It can go with a modification to such equipment. With that, I move that the bill pass.
I thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard on this bill? The question is, shall Senate Bill 586 pass? All those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 37, noes 2.
Ayes 37, noes 2. Senate Bill 586 passes.
Senate Bill 866, a bill to make certain hospital licenses effective until December 1, 2018.
The senator from Franklin, Senator Stanley.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I now move that Senate Bill 866 pass. And speaking to that, sir.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you. Mr. President, members of the body, this is what we call a do-over. If you may have recalled 1 week ago today, I presented a bill to you all that was very important to Patrick County to try to give us the best opportunity, the best ability to reopen a hospital that was shuttered due to the parent company committing bankruptcy, declaring bankruptcy. I went and did some more research after that, and I must tell you, I went back after that vote, and I was very upset, if you couldn't tell already. And I immediately refiled this one after conferring with the clerk. Because even though at that moment those votes were taken and that bill was defeated, I knew it wasn't because you didn't care about Patrick County necessarily, that there were other issues. Or at least I hoped that you cared about Patrick County and Henry County and Franklin County and Carroll County and the areas that I represent that perhaps you never visit or may not even find on a map, but yet are still a part of your Commonwealth. So I went back after filing that bill and being very upset to make sure that I was right, that I wasn't wrong in my position. And I looked at the bankruptcy documents. I looked at the reasoning for what was happening. I talked to the CEO, Jeanette Philpe, about why it closed. I'd even heard from members across the aisle, those that had sent messages to their constituents that perhaps the hospital was closed not because of bankruptcy or mismanagement at the corporate level, but because we had suffered some critical care violations. And what I found is that the reason that the hospital parent organization gave in its bankruptcy filings were this. According to the company, the filing was necessitated by a significant change in the healthcare environment over the past few years that led to a financial strain throughout the Pioneer organization. Pioneer specifically cited decreases in the reimbursement rates through high deductible plans under the ACA, 2% sequestration put upon them by the federal government, federal requirements that were new to invest in an electronic health record system which cost millions of dollars for this small company, denials for appropriate hospital stays by insurance companies, and delays in payment by those same insurance companies. Patrick County Hospital was a part of that Pioneer system. Patrick County Hospital, as I told you before, was built through
our citizens giving 75 cents or $1 out of every paycheck for 150 weeks so they would have enough money to build the physical structure and open a hospital. And even further in my research, I found that there is a book, the brass book, that has etched in brass, 11 pages, the names of those members of the Patrick County community. Every single one of them that gave $1 or 75 cents or whatever they could. That book is a source of pride for my community. And its names are many. And its families are many. And that's the kind of thing that will never be forgotten in our area. I talked to Jeanette Philpe, the CEO, who has still stayed strong and true to the cause of the Patrick County Hospital. She told me this. She said, the leadership team at the Patrick County Hospital was successful in our diligent efforts to continue cash flow positive operations throughout the bankruptcy process, which started in March 30th of 2016. The hospital itself did not close until September of this year. Unfortunately, she says, the extent of capital debt incurred by Pioneer Health Systems was passed on to the hospital. In addition to declining reimbursements, sequestration, as well as growing bad debt by the parent company by ensuring care to the underinsured or uninsured, made all efforts to negotiate a sale of the hospital unsuccessful. In clarifying recent statements, the Patrick County Hospital did not close due to quality of care violations. That is to say, there were assertions that the hospital was closed for quality care violations. Our physicians and caregiving teams have always made the care of our patients the top priority. Our team innovators brought a life-saving stroke program to this small rural emergency room through telemedicine partnerships with Novan. Patrick was also the de novo site for UVA's rural outreach program for low-dose CT lung cancer screenings. Pioneer Community Hospital of Patrick received their certificates of accreditation by CMS on May 25th, 2017. This was a fully functional hospital. Provided 24/7 emergency care, acute hospital services, surgical services, general medicine, radiology, laboratory, family medicine, respiratory therapy, and even had a swing bed program. It had 81 full-time employees. Many of the people of Patrick County who are sitting in the gallery today have personal stories on how that hospital saved them or their neighbors or their brothers or their sisters. In particular, Dr. Schroof, who was suffering chest pains, suffered a heart attack, and he has given me permission to say this, was rushed and saved at Patrick County Hospital because he was rushed there and was given enough time to be diagnosed and to be treated. We lost 81 full-time employees, great people who worked very hard for the people of Patrick County. This is a passionate issue for me because it is a needed issue for the people that I serve. I wish we could only go back just a little bit to a time where we all worked together. I remember my good friend, the senator from Arlington, when she first came on board, we had a bill that was important to her area. But because of the temperament of the House over on the other side, we didn't think that she would ever be having it heard nor passed. And so I co-patroned with her that bill. We got it out of here with no problem. And we went over there to the House, and I do recall, if you recall, we stood there together at the podium in the committee, and the chairman looked at both of us and said, one of you is wrong. But we weren't, because we worked together. That's the spirit of the Senate. And I was honored to serve on that bill with her, and I was honored that the governor signed it with my name and her name on it. It is only fair that we get back to that time where we are the adults in the room, we do the right things, and we do it for areas that we may not live in, but we know matter to you. I know why, one of the reasons why you voted against this bill. And that is a debate for another day. But please, for the people of Patrick County, let this bill go on to the House and then on to our governor's desk for his signature. For it is the right thing to do, and it is what we ask. People of Patrick County are self-sufficient, quiet, keep to ourselves, and we don't ask for much. So when we do come here and ask for much, it's important to us. And for those reasons, Mr. President, I again renew my motion that Senate Bill 866 pass.
Thank the senator. For what purpose does the senator from Arlington rise?
I rise to speak to the motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you. To my dear friend and the senator from Franklin County, I am with trepidation going to ask my colleagues to vote in favor of your bill. But I do want to say that I'm very conflicted. I am voting for this bill because I understand there's an immediate need for your constituents and that there is a severe lack of medical care in the areas in which you represent. The bill before us is a Band-Aid. The bill before us is permitting a business model. Perhaps it will succeed, perhaps it won't, but it's permitting a business model to go forward. But I suggest to you that that business model is not going to be enough. The bill before us is not going to address the systemic problems in the delivery of our healthcare system. We will continue to have issues related to insufficient reimbursement under Medicare, which is a strictly federal program, but insufficient reimbursements under Medicaid, which is a federal state program. A large number of uninsured, again, 400,000 Virginians, about 1,200 in Patrick County, would be eligible for Medicaid expansion. And I know we don't like the word expansion, but actually the voters heard about Medicaid expansion in this last election, and it was one of their top priorities. We have to act on this. We have to ensure more primary care is provided throughout our Commonwealth so more of us are healthy. So I suggest to my colleague and my friend from Franklin County that we have a lot more work ahead of us. We started off on a very positive note back in 2011 when we were both elected, and you have been a good friend and a good mentor, and I have learned a great deal from watching you and from working with you. But we cannot ignore the bigger issue before us. And I would challenge you and your colleagues to sit down with us on the Democratic side, to sit down with the governor and talk about how we can ensure more Virginians. I thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard on this bill? The question is, shall Senate Bill 866 pass? All those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. Senate Bill 866 passes.
Uncontested calendar, Senate bills on second reading.
Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Epiphany is a wonderful thing, Mr. President. Mr. President, I respectfully move that all Senate bills on the second reading on the uncontested calendar, which would include all Senate bills on pages 11 through 13, including Senate Bill 375 through Senate Bill 851, be engrossed in advance to their third reading in the block after the adoption of any amendments. Any senator who may desire to remove a bill from the block, please do so after the clerk has read the number of that bill.
The question is, shall all Senate bills on second reading on the uncontested calendar on pages 11 through 13, Senate Bill 375 through Senate Bill 851, be engrossed in advance to the third reading in the block after the adoption of the amendments thereto, and that any senator desiring to remove a bill from the block do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to.
Senate Bill 375, reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources with a substitute.
The senator from Russell, Senator Chafin.
Mr. President, I move the substitute.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 567, reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources with amendment.
The senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenshain.
Mr. President, I move that the committee amendment be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendment is agreed to.
Senate Bill 682, reported from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services with amendments.
The senator from Bath, Senator Deeds.
Mr. President, I move that the committee amendments be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendments are agreed to.
Senate Bill 702, reported from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services. Senate Bill 741, reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources with amendments.
The senator from Mecklenburg, Senator Ruff.
Mr. President, I move that committee amendments be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendments are agreed to.
Senate Bill 851, reported from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services with amendment.
The senator from Western Fairfax, Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the committee amendment be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendment is agreed to.
Uncontested.
The question is, shall the Senate bills be engrossed in advance to their third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills are engrossed in advance to their third reading.
Regular calendar. Senate bills on second reading. Senate Bill 106, a bill relating to congressional and state legislative districts compactness standard.
The senator from Roanoke County, Senator Suderline.
Thank you, Mr. President. We're pretty close on that amendment, and I hope to have that for us soon, but I would respectfully ask that Senate Bill 106 go by for the day.
Without objection, Senate Bill 106 will go by for the day.
Senate Bill 792, a bill relating to special license plates, Friends of the Blue Ridge Parkway, reported from the Committee on Transportation with amendment.
Senator from Bath, Senator Deeds.
Mr. President, the instructions we have from Senator Edwards' office are to ask that this bill go by for the day.
Without objection, Senate Bill 792 will go by for the day.
Senate Bill 183, a bill relating to child abuse and neglect, notice of founded reports to Superintendent of Public Instruction, reported from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services.
Senator from Arlington, Senator Favola.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that this bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading? All those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 183 is engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Senate Bill 184, relating to child abuse and neglect, founded reports regarding former school employees, reported from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services.
The senator from Arlington, Senator Favola.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading? All those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 184 is engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Senate Bill 552, a bill relating to crab pots and peeler pots, marine biodegradable escape panels penalty, reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources with amendment.
The senator from Williamsburg, Senator Mason.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that the committee amendment be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? All those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendment is agreed to. The senator from Williamsburg, Senator
Mr.
Mason.
President, I move the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Senate Bill 555, a bill relating to barrier crimes, adult substance abuse, and mental health treatment providers, reported from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services
Mr. President.
with a substitute.
the senator, junior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator D. Steph.
Mr. President,
Mr.
I request we recommit Senate Bill 555 to Rehab and Social Services.
Mr. President,
from Williamsburg, Senator Mason.
Could we move that the committee substitute be agreed to?
Junior senator from Virginia Beach.
That'd be fine.
Okay.
Senator from Williamsburg, Senator Mason has the floor.
Well, so, Mr. President, the gentleman approached me recently. He had concerns about this in committee, which we heard before. I'm not certain of his concerns today, but he approached me a few minutes ago and would ask that we pass it back to committee and talk about it again. While I feel like we've done that once before, I'm willing to accede to his wishes.
Okay. Thank you. Does the senator still wish to move the substitute?
I beg your pardon. I thought I moved the substitute.
You did.
I apologize.
Pending question. No. The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The substitute is agreed to. I'll call once again on the junior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator D. Steph.
Mr. President, I recommend we take Senate Bill 555 and recommit it to Senate Rehab and Social Services.
The question is, shall Senate Bill 555 be recommitted to the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. Chair is uncertain. We'll have a recorded vote. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, no 0.
Ayes 38, no 0. The bill is recommitted to the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services.
Uncontested calendar, Senate bills on first reading.
The senator from James City County, Senator Norman. Senator Norman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would respectfully move that all Senate bills on the first reading on both the uncontested and regular calendar, which would include all Senate bills on pages 15 through 18, including Senate Bill 51 through Senate Bill 833, that the rules of the Senate be suspended and that the first constitutional reading of the titles be dispensed with.
Senator, the question is, shall the rules be suspended in the first reading of the titles of Senate bills on the uncontested and regular calendars, pages 15 through 18, Senate Bill 51 through Senate Bill 833 be dispensed with? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, no 0.
Ayes 38, no 0. The reading of the titles is dispensed with. Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I now move that all of the bills be passed by for the day, sir.
The question is, shall the Senate bills on the uncontested and regular calendars now on second reading be passed by for the day? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills will go by for the day. Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Mr. President, inquire the clerk. Does that complete today's calendar?
Yes, sir.
Is there any other business to come before the Senate? The clerk will make report any announcements on the desk.
Today, Tuesday, January 23rd, 2018. The Committee on Privileges and Elections will meet 15 minutes after adjournment in Senate Room 3 in the Capitol. Committee on Local Government will meet 1/2 hour after adjournment in Senate Room A in the Pocahontas Building. The Finance Subcommittee on Education will meet at 3:30 p.m. in the 5th floor Subcommittee Room Number 1. Senators Norman, Newman, Howell, Sazaw, Hanger, Ruff, Donovan, and Stewart. The Education and Health Subcommittee on Health will meet at 4:00 p.m. in the 5th floor Subcommittee Room Number 2. Senators Cosgrove, Black, Barker, Lewis, and Suderline. Tomorrow, Wednesday, January 24th, 2018, the Finance Subcommittee on Public Safety will meet at 7:30 a.m. in the 6th floor Senate Leadership Conference Room in the Pocahontas Building. Senators McDougall, Howell, Norman, Lucas, Carrico, and Obenshain. The Women's Legislative Roundtable will meet at 8:30 a.m. in the Credit Union House, 108 North 8th Street. The Committee on Finance will meet at 9 o'clock a.m. in Committee Room B in the Pocahontas Building. The General Laws and Technology Subcommittee Number 1 will meet at 9 o'clock a.m. in the 5th floor Subcommittee Room Number 2. Senators Locke, Black, DeSteff, Donovan, Sturdivant, Survell, McPike, and Vogel. The Republican Caucus will meet at 11:30 a.m. in Senate Room 2. The Democratic Caucus will meet at 11:30 a.m. in Senate Room 1.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The Senator from Bedford, Senator Newman.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate do now adjourn until 12 noon tomorrow.
The question is, shall the Senate adjourn until 12 noon tomorrow? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The Senate stands adjourned until 12 noon tomorrow.